Sensor dust. I love it. Ever since I started photography, I've been glued to prime lenses. When I got my first DSLR, a Nikon D3000 and a fixed 35mm 1.8 lens, I was hooked. It just looked better than the kit lens, and it seemed to make photography easier and more beautiful. Ever since, prime lenses have been essential to the look of my photography. But when shooting a lot of photos vigorously, their inconvenience is unparalleled. I would shoot weddings constantly switching lenses from 14mm to 24mm to 85mm. And I discovered quickly that this is why people who shoot a lot of prime lenses often have two camera bodies with them while shooting weddings. Because every time you want to switch your focal length, you end up exposing the most sensitive parts of the camera to the elements around you. But whatever. I like extremes, which is why when going on a cross-country road trip recently, I only brought a 28mm lens and my 85mm lens on my Nikon ZF. And yes, I had to edit out a lot of sensor dust, but that's my problem, not yours. Oh, and by the way, this is the Double Negative Podcast, a photography podcast by Will Malone with your host, me, the titular Will Malone. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So me and a couple friends went on a week-long cross-country road trip recently, which probably isn't long enough, if I'm being honest. But despite that, we flew to LA and drove back by way of California, Vegas, Utah, Colorado, and then, the rest. I pretty much only think in wide or close up. There's no room in the middle. I either want to see everything or isolate one single thing. And this is probably the point where you're asking, couldn't you just get a lens to cover that range of 28 to 85? And obviously I could, but then I'm going to be tempted to make my photography mushy and a little too down the middle. The middle is the danger zone. The middle is where we do not want to be as photographers.
Bangers all day.
There's way too much clutter out there. There's way too much for us to try to stand out against. The middle is death. And yet, we photographers love to go to this swampy and indistinct place with our images. In order to make our work as successful as it can be, we have to put ourselves in some kind of danger. Not physical danger necessarily, although that actually kind of does help sometimes, I guess, especially for war photographers. We have to put ourselves at risk with not being satisfied with the shot.
Well, you're waiting for what? The light's not happening.
For like this big cloud to move, and for that light streaming by right there to come over. That cloud is moving. You know what I'm saying? Like that channel right there.
Our desires, our need for control is always going to be the thing that screws up whatever images we're taking. One prime lens or two covering two very extreme ranges is there to save me from myself. Look through your camera. Perfect, yeah. So let's start with the 28mm. This is the 28mm 1.8 lens that looks retro, kind of like the Nikon ZF. I like this lens because it's cheap and it's good. I have no complaints about it. It's light, it works great, and I can just throw it in my back pocket if I have to. And I also keep a Pro Mist filter on it. I like the 28mm lens because I can isolate a subject but also capture its environment. My shopping cart project has been largely shot with the 28mm lens for this reason. I want to capture the things around it in order to bring more context to the subject. It's also great for getting really close up to subjects and exaggerating them. The wide angle warps reality in a way that's really pleasing to me. It's the photography equivalent of talking louder, basically. It can also add dread. Look at these shots of the road. Look how long and endless that road looks. It never ends. Just goes on forever. The second lens I brought is my 85mm 1.8 f-mount lens. Now, my grandmother gave me this lens as a graduation present back in 2014. Oh, yeah. And I've used this lens more than any lens I've ever had. And with the Z-mount adapter, it looks ridiculously huge and doesn't really autofocus as well as it did before, but I'm still attached to this lens. It's not a cool lens, it's definitely not high-end or nice, but it still gets fantastic results. Don't let influencers tell you what to buy. Pick a lens you like and take photos with it. It doesn't matter if it's popular or not. I've been shooting a lot with the 85mm,
just because it compresses things. It's been kind of a nice challenge. I usually just shoot wide, so it's been nice to crop in a little bit.
An 85mm is often seen as a portrait lens, and yet I almost never take portraits with it. Ever. Hardly at all. And that's because I'm after one thing: compression. I want to minimize the vastness that 28mm lenses give me. I want to smash everything together. I want the subject and the background to become layers on a diorama. And like I said, I normally shoot my shopping cart photos at 28mm so I can capture what's around them. But for this one, I wanted the viewer to really experience the desert. All of my shopping cart photos are usually in lush green southeastern places, but this one is clearly in the desert against the mountains. And the 28mm version just didn't cut it. And, you know, you'd think you could fit more in frame with a 28mm lens, but I think sometimes it's more satisfying to try to fit more squished together in an 85mm frame, a tighter frame, because it's like creating a collage in real time. But there is a problem. The problem being that with all of these amazing, cool places out west that we went to, these breathtaking places, everything is just so big. Everything is just of enormous scale, and that's hard to capture.
This view is almost too big.
Yeah, oh, it is. There's not a good way that I'm going to be able to photograph this. It is wild. I'm going to do a phone pano and just call it good for the wide, but man.
So it's hard for a wide lens to translate how big the mountains are around you. This was a real problem in Zion National Park, which was beautiful but extremely unsatisfying to photograph just due to the scale of the landscape. Well, and, you know, the massive crowd of tourists that were also there with us, crammed into a shuttle. My solution to this problem was unusual because I heavily leaned on the 28mm lens at this location, even though the landscape didn't really translate to a lens that wide. I wanted to fit something in the foreground to try to communicate that scale. And so that foreground thing ended up being me. And sure, I could have taken photos of the landscape and called it a day, but I knew I wouldn't end up doing anything with those photos. I might as well just not take photos at all. So I decided to just make a series of selfies of me at these beautiful locations, but I purposely put myself out of focus to try and magnify the background landscape. It's silly, but I think it worked quite well. Do you want to take your work to a new place? Well, then take something away. Everything is way too easy with technology. We have everything now. We can do anything all the time. So we need to invest in limits for ourselves. And yes, even if that means missing the shot. I went down in this ravine. Feels like it could be snaky. I don't want to be over here. There's a lot of bushes. A lot of bushes. I don't want this. Ugh. Man, beautiful. Beautiful. But instead of being dismissive about what might be in your head about the photo that you want, let's analyze that for a second. What is the shot to you? When I started photography, the shot often equaled coverage. Meaning I was just trying to capture that thing for myself. I was trying to capture the idea that I was there and I saw it. I wasn't imbuing the image with any new insights or perspectives, or trying to share my interpretation of the scene. I just wanted to put things in my Pokedex. I wanted to show up, see the Eiffel Tower, and capture it like it's Pidgeotto. But then, walking back to our hotel in Paris, this was probably back in 2011, we walked around the corner, and I realized I could still see the Eiffel Tower from where we were standing. I had never seen it from this angle on postcards and TV. It was purely unique to that moment of me walking past this little side street we were on. And boom, I got the photo of a popular tourist landmark that I was actually really happy with because it felt unique to my own experience. I've shot photo after photo of places that are obvious. And you never know I shot these photos because they often just come with the intent to capture it just for myself. So I don't really bring anything new to it. I'm not trying to show anybody anything. And I'd show you some of these photos, but they're buried so deep into my archives, forgotten, and maybe even unedited. I think people get mixed up when they hear photographers like me pushing uniqueness over all else. It comes across, I think, as like an ego thing. Like I'm too good to be taking touristy photos that everyone else always shoots, just because I don't want to take the same photo as everybody else. Like I'm too good for it or something. But think of it like this. In the Steven Pressfield book about writing that I read recently, No One Wants to Read Your Shit, he talks about what a writer's job is. Anyone can lay out words to explain a series of facts, and anyone can tell a story in a linear way in the order that it just happened. But a writer's responsibility, much like a photographer's, is to take that raw material of a story, of a scene, and turn it into gold. We're not just relaying information out here. We are trying to take something and put it through a filter to express it to other people so that not only will they pay attention to it, but they can take something away from it. It's to think about other people. It's being considerate. It's thinking about the people that you're hoping will read your writing or look at your photos. It's not ego. It's generosity. In 2025, we've seen it all. All of us. We are hungrier for originality than ever. If we're going to be a photographer, and we're also going to complain often about how we don't get as much likes on Instagram anymore, or we feel like a lot of people aren't seeing our work, then we definitely have to be focusing on trying to turn our photos into gold. Even the people that say that they just post on Instagram for fun, just for themselves, and they don't care about attention, come on, let's be real. If you didn't care about other people seeing your photos, you would just put them in a private photo album and keep them to yourself at home. But you choose to post them publicly. Why? Because in your heart of hearts, you want people to see them. But it's hard to be original. It's hard to turn most photos into something people will care about, let alone want to look at. So back to my original point of this video. One thing that really helped my photography is thinking in extremes. And in this case, wide and close up.
I just took a picture on the film.
They both require work on my end. Problem solving. Because in many cases, these lenses often aren't right for capturing a scene. So it forces me to try and make it right by trying to solve the problem of how to make it interesting via my own personal perspective. With enough practice, you'll start to think in 28 millimeter and 85 millimeter or whatever focal length you're into. You'll just see stuff that way. And once you get used to seeing scenes with your own eyes and your own brain, as opposed to anyone else's, you're on the path. You're on the path of maybe, just maybe, being able to turn your photos into the gold that I believe they can be. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Make sure to go sign up for my weekly newsletter and my audio-only podcast about today in photography. Photography is Dead over at my Substack, The Double Negative Dispatch. And you can follow me on Instagram, at Will Malone, Polaroid Instagram account, at Everyday Instant. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you again very soon.